She didn't come. I know, but you have me. Hi, kids. Are they here? Is everybody here? All right. I feel like I'm like in my living room because I have microphones in my living room. Huh?
I was gonna intro you. Is that okay?
I'm not here.
Hi guys, thank you so much for coming to ATX Festival Day 2. We are very, very excited to kick off the morning with the panel. It's very special to us. We just want to go over a few quick things. No video recording, no flash photography, and please don't keep your phones in the air while other people are watching. We have these guys here for you in person today, so watch them for real. Enjoy the panel while it's happening. We have an amazing group of guests for you today. First, we're going to bring out your moderator, who is an ATX Festival. You don't know who it is. Calm down. We are going to bring out a person you're seeing for the first time today. He is an ATX Festival and GLAAD ambassador and actor, Mr. Wilson Cruz.
Thank you, baby. Oh, God, it's like seeing you for the first time. Oh, hi, kids. All right, so Mama's had a long night. Apparently, there's a club here called Rain. I was there, apparently. And we made it rain. Anyway. Should I bring them out first? Yeah, I should bring them out first. So, like I said, Ms. Chaikin could not join us this morning. Thank you for being here. But I do want to bring out our panelists, our esteemed panelists. First, I want to bring out one of my best friends in the whole world. I adore him to death. He is an accomplished actor, and now he is a writer and producer of The Fosters, Mr. Peter Paige.
Where am I supposed to sit? I'm over here?
Wherever you want, on the chaise lounge.
Yeah, I will recline.
And
can you hear me?
Say hi.
Yeah? Is that really? Is that amplifying me, or is it just me? There we go.
There.
Hey, what up?
Speak into the cherry of the microphone.
Good. I beg your pardon. Good morning. What the hell are all of you people doing awake? Wilson closed down Rain last night, so we're lucky to have him.
Yeah. Where are we? Next, I want to. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry. Next, I want to bring out two people who I've gotten to know over the weekend much better. I am enamored of them and incredibly impressed by them, and we owe them a great deal. Yesterday, if any of you were at the Queer as Folk panel, it was incredibly moving. And I'm so happy to have them on this panel. I think we're going to learn a lot from them, and they have a great perspective to bring to the table. Ron Cowen and Daniel Lipman.
That's a close one, huh?
Sorry. Producers of Queer as Folk, and also we're going to be talking about a film that they produced early on called Early Frost, which was Early Frost, which was a seminal television moment for me especially, and we're also very, very happy. Okay. No, you don't produce anything. And we also have with us Gina Fattore, who who wrote the script of the episode of Dawson's Creek, which within it had the first male kiss on television, if you can believe it. I'm not checking my messages. This is where my questions are. I'm going to be texting throughout. What time did you leave my room? What was your name? No, I know his name. I wish I was kidding.
No, you don't.
I don't. First of all, can I talk about Joe's? Hi. Thank you, Jesus. So first, I want to start by saying, 26 years ago, GLAAD decided that they were going to give out some awards. And for those of you that don't know, GLAAD is the nation's largest LGBT media advocacy group, which means that they work with and within the media to tell the stories of LGBT people so that people know who we are and what our lives are actually like, as opposed to the lies that are told about us from people who oppose our lives. How do you oppose someone's life? I don't know. But it was founded in 1985 in response to the way that that the media was covering HIV and AIDS and talking about gay men and the epidemic that was taking place at the time. All of that being said, in 1989, they decided, well, you know what? We're not going to just slap people on the wrist for doing the wrong thing. We want to acknowledge people for the good things they're doing in the media and the way that they talk about LGBT people on television, in the news, in film. And so they created the GLAAD Media Awards. Now, the first GLAAD Media Awards in 1985 was literally two people in a room, in an office going, what was on television that we can actually say was good? I'm not kidding. Like, they were combing through the TV guide. This is the story I was told. Back when you had an actual TV guide that was this big, which I loved. I used to read it cover to cover, and I did the crossword.
Really? You read it cover to cover?
I did. I used to. I could not wait for the fall TV guide.
You read the little listings every?
Yes.
Really?
And I would, and they would describe each new fall show, and I was like, oh my God, I hate that show. I'm not going to see that, but I love this one. And I was serious. Anyway, but it was literally two people in an office at the GLAAD offices going, well, I mean, there's not very much, so we're going to give it, an episode of Donahue. Literally, and fast forward to today, 26 years later, where this year we actually had to expand the number of nominees from 5 to 10 in each category, because there is so much that has happened on television that was exciting and good, thank God, to actually acknowledge. So it's a very exciting time to be talking about the way, the powerful way in which television has changed the way that we perceive ourselves, and the way that America and the world really perceives LGBT people. Television has really allowed us to be in people's homes and tell people about our lives and experience our lives through this incredible medium, which is television. So all of that being said, I want to rewind back to 1985. And I want to talk about, thank you first of all for being here. It means the world to me. Yay. Oh, look, there's one there.
I see. Okay. I see how it's going to be.
Now we all have an ice cream cone. Okay.
So everyone knows that you created Queer as Folk for Showtime, and we all love it. But I really do want to say first that in 1985, I was 13 years old, 12 years old. My uncle had just been diagnosed with AIDS, not HIV, and it was very real. The epidemic was very real. He lived with us. It was in my house, and when the film came on, I watched it with my mom, and we didn't really talk about.
You're talking about An Early Frost, right?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
We talked. Yes, An Early Frost came on NBC, which was a big deal. That in 1985 we would have this story being told, and it was important that this story was being told because the country was really going through this epidemic, and it was traumatic, as we all know. And my uncle actually died 3 years later, that film was one of the reasons that my mom and I actually could have a conversation about what AIDS was. So I want to say thank you for that. But I wanted to ask you how that came about. How did you go to the network? Did they come to you? How did An Early Frost happen?
Well, the first thing I wanted, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. First thing that I wanted to do is sort of set the stage back then, because it's hard from our perspective now to realize how terrifying AIDS was. I remember very distinctly, Geraldo Rivera did a piece on 2020, whatever it was back then, about this gay disease. And of course, they showed images of all of these gay men during the Gay Pride Parade, you know, dressed up as women and throwing off their underpants. And, you know, it seemed very decadent. It was very one-sided to me. And people were absolutely horrified. They had no idea. Also, they showed images on TV of men with the KS. And
KS is a...
Kaposi sarcoma.
Sarcoma was a very rare skin condition. It was skin cancer, and it was like these really hideous black, purple blotches you got all over your body.
They were lesions that come
and initially, AIDS was called GRID at that time. It wasn't even called AIDS. GRID standing for Gay-Related Immune Deficiency. And people were just absolutely, they had no idea what it was. It was this plague that was coming. And NBC, there was an executive, wonderful man who wound up producing our movie, Perry Lafferty, who was an executive at NBC, very high up, and he was leaving. Straight, yes. He was leaving his position at NBC, and he wanted to be an independent producer. So he was produce this for NBC. Do you want to pick up?
And so NBC basically contacted us. We knew the woman who ran NBC Productions, and that was the part of NBC that produced our movie. Deborah All, also straight. This entire movie was thought up by and put on the air by straight men and women. I think that's important to know. So they called us and asked us to do it. And it was very traumatic. I know most of you are too young to remember what it was like in 1985. Many of you probably weren't even born yet. A lot of you probably never heard of this movie. But it was the first movie about AIDS. And I think it was probably the first time that most of the United States saw a serious drama about gay people, because back then you didn't see very many images of gay people on TV at all. And this was a very disturbing story. Gay people at that point were sort of being held responsible for the gay plague, and you were looked at as somebody who was walking around who could give you AIDS and you would die, because it was a death sentence. There was no medication at all, zero. Nothing. They hadn't even identified HIV, which is the human immunodeficiency virus. They didn't even know what caused it. They hadn't even discovered the virus
NBC
yet.
gave us a book, the first book that had come out about trying to figure out AIDS, and there was a chapter on AIDS being spread by mosquitoes from Long Island. I still have that book in the garage.
Yeah, it was a.
I mean,
Long Island mosquitoes are fucking serious, though. Let's get real. Maybe it's not AIDS related, but I just want to say they will eat you alive.
But I mean,
They won't give you AIDS.
But it's fair to say that nobody knew how you contracted it. So there were just rumors and fear.
I just wanted to jump ahead just for 1 second, because what was interesting, as we were writing this, they were discovering for instance, that the viruses could be in saliva, could be in blood. They were discovering this as we were doing it. And I remember someone at the doctor that we had, who was our consultant, said that we are releasing all this information in little dollops through the next year, because if we presented all this to the public, everybody would go crazy, all these things that we're discovering. Also, Perry said to us, the only way we're going to get this through, nobody wanted to do this movie. This was not he wanted to do it. No one wanted to do it. He said the only way we can do this at NBC, we have to get everybody on board. You have to write one draft. We'll take it to this person. He'll give us the notes. We'll address the notes. Then the next person. We wound up writing, what was it, 15 drafts?
13 drafts probably over.
Can I ask you guys a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Why did they come to you? What was it in your previous body of work that they thought, like, these are the guys?
Well, oddly enough, it had nothing to do with that. Deborah All, who was, we had done when we first came to Los Angeles, we were sort of thrown up in the air in terms of all the different projects, and we were working on a comedy project that she was assisting on, and we became very close to her. That project never happened, and then when she became the president of NBC Productions, she just picked up the phone one day and said, you know, guys, I really think, and I think the fact that we were a couple, we were gay, I think that had something to do with it.
A little.
I mean, we had written many dramatic things. It wasn't like we had just written comedy at the time. So that's how it happened.
There was some good fortune involved in our getting the job. So we wrote 13 drafts. Finally, it got on the air and cut to the chase.
So I do want to say, I just wanted, what was casting that movie like? Because as we know, there were probably very few men who were willing to play the role, right? No? Yes?
Well,
I'm assuming.
Interestingly enough, Aidan Quinn, who was a major movie star at that time.
Gorgeous Aidan Quinn.
And
do you know Aidan? Do you know Aidan Quinn? Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Black hair, blue eyes.
Avalon.
Irish, that kind of, blue-eyed, yeah.
he wanted to do this part, and he was in Chicago. I think he's from Chicago, and he was working there, and he said, I want to do that role. They didn't have to look for him. He came to them.
He was volunteering in an AIDS clinic, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
And the parents were played by Jenna Rollins and Ben Gazzara, who had done a lot of John Cassavetes movies. They're very
just Jenna Rollins.
Prestigious actors who don't usually do TV. So
she's remarkable.
They had a great cast. Our director told us many years later who he turned down, which was also very interesting.
We're listening.
Audrey Hepburn wanted to be the mother, and he turned her down. I'm not kidding.
They turned down Audrey Hepburn?
Yeah.
And we had a grandmother character played by Sylvia Sidney, and Jimmy Stewart wanted to be. He said, "I want to be the grandfather."
If you change it, could make it a grandfather. I want to be the grandfather. So a lot of people wanted to do this movie. So that was not a problem as it was with Queer as Folk, where not a single Hollywood
But they had to
agent.
hire any old faggot who walked in off the street. I'll do it. Hey.
They did.
Hey.
And there he is. And there he is.
So wait, we should say the film we did very well. It was
the
viewed by
film was,
30 million people.
Now, the Super Bowl doesn't get those numbers now.
Right, 30 million people.
35.
34 million
34 million
people
people.
watched this on Monday night. We beat Monday Night Football. It was nominated for 14 Emmy Awards. We won an Emmy for our teleplay and a Peabody Award. So
Thank you.
the story
And it was repeated.
The story had in that regard, had a very happy ending. And because it was on NBC, the whole country saw it. And as we were saying earlier, we wrote this movie for Kansas. We did not write this movie for Greenwich Village.
Right. So what was the response from, in the media? Was there any response from the religious right? Was there,
When the show was on the very first broadcast, there were every sponsor pulled out. They could not get a sponsor. So if you saw it,
No advertising. They just did promos for their own
right.
shows.
There was only one advertiser,
dollars.
and that was the King James Bible. I swear. And in the middle of the early frost. So so of course.
What?
Yes. So. I swear it. So we are not privy, of course, to we had seen a previous cut of it, whatever. But we'd seen they had a premiere of it at the Academy, which was very nice. But when it was actually broadcast. Our families came to Los Angeles, and we had like a little dinner, and we were all sitting around the TV set watching this, and we're watching all the promos, and then right in the middle of an early frost, there is the scene in King James's court
in England
with
They're
the
walking
jester
around,
and the wenches, and they're all reading the Bible, and it says, "Get the King James Bible." It was just bizarre, really, really bizarre.
Can you do your wenches again, please? Because they're wenches. They're very linebackery, your wenches. I'm gonna shoulder check you.
Right.
Well, they were strong women.
Call me Caitlin. No, I'm kidding.
They were very strong women. They were role models.
Yeah, exactly. It was surreal. It was really surreal. And it also hailed that night, as I recall. Because we were all watching the movie, and all of a sudden, out the window, it starts to snow in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Everyone
Was there locusts?
I was about to say.
Watch the show. Stop watching the snow.
Wow.
All right.
It was a bizarre night, but luckily, it worked out.
Well, I want to jump ahead. I'm going to come back to Queers Folk.
Please.
I want to talk about Dawson's Creek. Yay. On a network called the WB. That's what it was called then, right? Before. God, I'm old. Remember UPN?
It's a television festival, Wilson.
But UPN, I thought, are there black people here? I'm sorry. Okay.
Are there black people here? Oh.
Am I the only one? Once again. Anyway, sorry. So I know that Kerr's character originally was not meant to be gay, right? He. Do you know the story? Do you want to talk how that came about, the changing of the character?
I actually, I wasn't there season 2, which is when the character was created. So, and I honestly, I do know that Greg Berlanti was there season 2. That was his first year on the show. And he and Kevin got this chance, I think, mid-year, because Kerr was created, his character of Jack McPhee was created essentially as a love interest for the Joey character on Dawson's Creek. And I think that Kevin himself wanted to tell a story with a gay character, and certainly I know Greg Berlanti so much. I worked with him for 3 years on Dawson's, and a lot of the stuff that they did for Jack was true to his life and particularly his coming out experience with his dad, which they had started doing season 2 on the show. And then when I joined the show season 3, Jack was essentially out to his family and, more coming out now to the community and to the people at school. And that was we did his arc as a character ended then with him, with the big kiss at the end of the season.
Now,
so
do you know? I'm just curious. Did you guys have a conversation about the fact, like, there's never been a two men kissing? Was there a whole conversation about it, or it was like, we have this kiss in here, and somebody came to you and said, that has never happened?
Right. I mean, I think when I look back, I realized that it all felt totally normal. I think just because we were doing a show about teenagers and they're, everyone has an adolescence, and, most people either writing or watching Dawson's Creek had a more awkward adolescence and, went through these struggles. And that I think from the time I started on the show, the character was already gay. And so it just was of course we're going to tell these stories, and Greg was going to take the lead because he had essentially created the character. And in an odd coincidence, he was making making an independent he was directing an independent movie that same season that we were doing Dawson's Creek, called The Broken Hearts Club,
Right.
which was basically about a group of friends in West Hollywood that, you know, was his passion project. And so throughout the season, Greg was working on the movie, and the main reason that I really was there for the kiss at the end on the set in Wilmington was because Greg was working on his movie. And there were 4 writers credited on that episode, but I was the one who went to North Carolina and produced it and was there that day on the set.
And what was that day like?
It was amazing. I mean, for me, I was terrified just because it was only my first year on a drama show like that. And essentially the network note was like, this needs to be shot from across the street. Like, we need, you know, and like I barely...
He's shot from South Carolina.
Right.
You can put a real long lens on it, but that's really all we're comfortable with.
Through a periscope, behind gauze.
And like, I mean, I feel like I barely knew what a master shot was. I didn't know from lenses, but like in 1 year I had that from the WB, and then I had Greg Berlanti calling me, you know, from saying like, Gina, this better be a real fucking kiss. And like, oh, I just swore. Sorry, like,
That sounds like her.
like, I mean, he wanted it to mean something and to be real. And look, I mean, Kerr, and I'm sure Kerr and Greg Berlanti had a conversation about it before, because Greg was running the show at that point, and he completely committed. And you know, it's a bit of a cliche episode, that last 323, the last episode of that season, because it's each one of the kids is just doing something that they've been afraid to do and putting it off. And in Jack's case, it was kissing this boy, Ethan. And so, you know, that was his moment. And it just seemed so, to me, it seemed really organic and effortless. And I have to say, I was and remain a huge fan of Will and Grace. So at the time, I was aware that Will and Jack had kissed on Will and Grace.
Right.
But it was a joke. It was played as a joke. It's a comedy show, and it wasn't, there were dramatic moments within that show that were real, but they were doing it as more of a gag and as a statement. And so we knew about that, and obviously we knew that our kiss, given what our show was about, was emotion and the reality of young love, that ours was going to be real. So
Right. It was taken seriously as opposed to, right.
yeah,
I had a question now. It went out of my head.
because I talk too much.
So no. What I was going to say was, and going back to Early Frost, we were telling this story. The couple in an Early Frost didn't even touch, right? There was no.
There was one moment where Aidan Quinn, it was D.W. Moffat, who's a wonderful actor, and you probably see him in a lot of things.
Yeah.
They played the couple, and there was one moment where Aidan Quinn did this, did that.
Don't touch me.
Don't touch me.
Dan, it's so intimate.
Right.
We're all here.
I feel dirty.
That's for different reasons,
Shut up.
Wilson.
But
they
You
were
could have showered.
right.
touching, no
I did
kissing.
shower.
And then also before that is the 30-something
I was just going
moment.
to say that
right.
there was a
So that
30-something
was-
moment where they
yes.
panned away from a couple that was in bed, and there was like outcry from from all of the advertisers and the sponsors
Wilson,
at the time.
If I could
Yes,
just
please.
add, the thing about Early Frost, which was much earlier than the Dawson's Creek and the 30-something episode, what the network felt, as Ron said, we wrote it for Kansas. What they were afraid of is they didn't want people turning off. There were no gay images at that time, and they did not want to have the audience turn off. It was more important that they saw the film, got the message of the film,
Right.
and didn't just shut their TVs off.
Right.
So that's why
Do you
it
wanna
wasn't in there.
You know, a lot of members of the gay community didn't like that movie. No, there's a very negative reaction to it because they felt the first movie about AIDS should have been about the gay community, not about a gay person going home and to his family.
Right.
So, yeah, there was some...
Well, the gays have lots of opinions.
Girl, please.
Right.
Yes,
Trust me.
they do.
And so then there was 30-something. And I was saying to Peter after the panel yesterday, I was really moved by the reception at that panel, and we were both saying how glad we were that you were given the love that we all have.
Thank you.
And showed the appreciation we all have for queer as folk.
Thank you.
And I was saying to Peter in the van when we were going to dinner, I said, I realized watching the clip that they put together that it was Queer as Folk was the first show where we were taken seriously as a community, where our relationships, our lives, the people in our lives, and the loves in our lives were taken seriously as opposed to a joke or a gag, or somebody's friend. We were central. The story was central, and so it was revolutionary in that sense, in many senses. And I know you talked about a lot of this yesterday, but and for those of people who weren't able to go to the panel yesterday, can you talk about how Queer as Folk came to you?
Well, first of all, this it's had a very wonderful and unusual career, and not by design, because between Early Frost and Queer as Folk are kind of like bookmarks in our career, and it really the progression of portraying gay images on television, at least from Early Frost to Queer as Folk, is absolutely mind-blowing. And we happen to have been in the right place at the right time, with Early Frost and Queer as Folk. We had done another series called Sisters, it's on NBC, and oh, thank you. Wow, do you remember Sisters? Wow, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much.
You guys should do a sisters reunion here one year.
Totally.
That is a great.
All right.
Take note, ATX. That's a good idea.
So, and then
That's a good one.
we wrote a pilot. We were at Warner Brothers, and we sold it to Showtime. And they were doing all of their production in Toronto. They gave us a certain licensing fee. We had to find other financing for it. We finally did. We were going to start the show, and on a Friday, the production office was being set up, and on Friday we got the call. The financing fell through, and that was the end. And all the phones literally stopped ringing. And we didn't have a job, we didn't have a show, and we saw in the calendar section of the LA Times, on the cover of the calendar section, it said, the greatest show you will never see in the United States. It was all about Queer as Folk, and how if there was...
The English version, the UK version.
Right. And
it would never be done in the United States. It was far too graphic. It was so outrageous. No one in the United States would ever have the courage to do a show like this. And Showtime bought the rights to do the American version of the British show. And because we were at Showtime and our project had just fallen through, we spoke to the head of Showtime, a man named Jerry Offsay, who was the president of Showtime at that time, also straight, I might add.
I do want to say, we didn't say this yesterday, but he deserves a lot of credit.
Yes, he does.
Those guys, I mean, his whole career rests on those decisions. Am I going to be the guy who puts this on the air?
That's
and
right.
he did. And I don't think Jerry gets enough credit in these conversations for kind of, manning up and saying, these stories are important.
And we should thank the other executive producer on the show, Tony Jonas, who was the president of Warner Brothers Television, who arranged for the financing for that show. And fortunately, the financing did not fall through on Queer as Folk.
Right.
So yes, but Jerry, it was very interesting, as I was saying, with both Queer as Folk and Early Frost. These were projects that were initiated by straight people, and they were on the air because of straight men and women.
And Jerry had a commitment at Showtime to do gay-oriented projects, and so when at the time HBO and Showtime were both vying for this, and there was a competition. Not that there isn't now, but at that time there was a competition between them. And HBO wanted to do it as a miniseries, like 3 or 4 episodes, and Showtime wanted to do it as a regular, continuing series. And Jerry had done documentaries, gay-oriented documentaries, some TV films with gay characters. So Jerry was very committed to that. So it wasn't out of the blue. He was very, very committed to that. As well as, at the time, the black community. They did Soul Food and a lot of TV films. They did Resurrection Boulevard, which was a Latino show. So they were really trying to find these niche audiences. And we went to Jerry, and we knew the infrastructure of Showtime because we were working on this other show. And he said, "Fine, why don't you do it?" And we were And we had not seen Queers, we only heard about it.
Right.
Because you couldn't get the DVDs, you know. So then we were sent the tapes, I believe they were tapes, of Queer as Folk. And we were as startled as anyone. But we were
like, oh, shit.
Exactly. Now what are we going to do?
That's a lot of butt.
That's a lot of rimming.
Right.
But not as much rimming as we brought to the American version. We did exceed it.
Honey, I was there.
Well,
Yeah. Right.
Yes, you were.
Not there, but I was there.
Well, I mean, you know, just
Thank God you were, by the way.
thank you, Peter.
what
Peter's a blessing.
and
A blessing.
I'm getting to her. What?
I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back.
No. Are you really? All right, you were next. All right.
I'll talk about the Fosters.
Right. I was gonna do a number.
You're not going anywhere, are you?
No. Okay. They won't let me. Tied to the show. But I was gonna say, when you look back at when you were creating Queer as Folk and working on it, what did you want to say through Queer as Folk?
We wanted, first of all, there are two things that we wanted. We wanted, because what you were hinting at, Wilson, is true. We always felt that the gay characters that we saw were all portrayed, we used to say, as clowns or eunuchs. So we wanted to do a show that celebrated the gay community in all of its forms, in all of its different personalities. And also we felt we had to be honest. And sometimes the truth is pretty, and sometimes it isn't. And sometimes people see themselves reflected in the mirror and they don't like it, but that doesn't mean it isn't true.
Right.
And no one, as Ron said, no one has ever accused us. We get criticism of the show and praise for the show, but nobody ever accused us of lying or not being honest.
Boy, were you honest.
Yeah. Right.
And I told, because you talked yesterday about casting and how it was a challenge to get men to commit to doing the show. And I haven't told you this, but I was at an agency which I won't name at the time, and I told this. I'd never told any. I didn't tell Peter until yesterday, but. I was talking to this agent. I had left the agency. And I saw him out about a year later, and I was like, "Hey, why didn't I ever go in on Queer as Folk?" And he was like, "Oh, they turned it down for you." And I was like, "What?"
We heard that from a lot of actors.
Yeah, the actors.
Like I never
didn't even know.
I never even knew.
No,
Did they-
no. That's what we're telling you.
It was
Even our
because
own
and this is the state of the industry. Like your representation, you do a gay character, and they, as an actor, they don't want you to continue to do gay characters, and so apparently they sent over.
Are you telling the story about how you should have played
Well, you
Emmett?
went to
Is
the
that
bathroom,
story?
so right. But I did say this. I was like, first of all, I wouldn't have gotten it. I wouldn't have gotten it because that was there are roles. This is my take. When there is a role for you, that role is yours. Nothing can happen to keep you from that, right? So this man is in my life because of Queer as Folk. That's how we met, and he's a light in my life. So, but I just thought it was interesting. He is.
There's a light in everybody's life.
But I just say that story because that's the state of the industry where your representation feel like they're protecting you from something. Work, which by the way I need right now, and I just found that really fascinating that I didn't even know about it until years later.
Even our own agency didn't send anyone in. No actors, no writers either. It was very hard.
This was
for us to cast the show, and it was.
But
it was very graphic. And I think the problem was, a lot of times people get praised, and they should be praised, for doing sort of one-offs, films where they do it once. Like the sexuality of the characters portrayed once. Our show, hopefully, we had a 22-episode order to begin with, so we knew we had at least 22 episodes. But you always try to create a show for success to continue, and we wound up doing it for 5 years. So there was a possibility you could do this for 5 years, believe it or not, Peter. And there was one actor, we could not find a Brian at all. And there's one actor who came in and said, I will do this, but only for 1 season. And we were so desperate that we said, well, maybe we should consider this. But then we said, well, what if the show is a success and this person leaves and he's one of the linchpins of the cast? How can we go? We're going to destroy the show. I mean, this is what we had to endure. And I think
I never heard that, sir. You have to tell me who it was later.
If I can remember. But this is what we had to endure with the casting. And I think mostly because, I think had it been a movie, like had it been an early Frost, then for once I don't think we would have had that kind of problem.
Right.
But I think the fact that
It was a commitment.
and someone could be identified as that.
The actors on our show deserve so much
Right, and I was
for
yes.
what they did.
Incredible.
But Peter, I did want to ask you, like, what was your input as far as Emmett? Like, what did you bring to the character that was not on the page? That you wanted him? What did you want to convey?
I don't think you bring anything really that isn't. You know, it's there. You're pulling it out, right? You're grabbing onto it. I think the thing that I saw in the pilot script that maybe I brought into the room that other people hadn't is I was like, oh, holy shit! Here's an effeminate gay man who likes himself. And that was revolutionary. That hadn't been done. I mean, literally, I had never, ever before on television seen, or in a movie, an effeminate gay man who liked himself.
And who was also brave and strong and stood up for his rights and didn't take shit from anyone. So he may have been effeminate, but he
was a man. He was powerful.
That's right.
But
he was a strong man.
But this is also what Peter Paige brought to it, because this is who Peter Paige is. And
look at
aside
this.
from being a retiring flower who can't speak his mind, you know, very meek and timid. No, this is who Peter is. And you know something? When we said this yesterday, creating this character was based on this person that I knew at the gym who worked at one of the major studios in Los Angeles as an accountant and for films. And he would paint his nails, and he'd be very effeminate. But then one day we had a business discussion, and it all dropped. It was all gone. And then when he was finished with the business discussion, he was very, very strong and very focused, like a laser. He just knew exactly what he was talking about. As soon as it was done, he went back to being who he was. And I said, this was a choice. And he wants to do this. This is his choice to do this. But Peter brought this to this character because of who Peter is. And
we call that a fierce queen. That's what you know. He was a fierce queen. Don't mess with her.
No. Yes. I mean, I guess the thing that was really important to me from the get-go, and I was talking about the costume designer. So the first costume designer, who I went into my first fitting, and she literally had like a big floppy garden hat and like a skirt, and I was like, and I was literally like, oh shit. She also had Scott Lowell in leather shorts, which. If you've seen the fitting photo of, is maybe my favorite thing that ever happened ever in the history of the world.
Cried, didn't they?
Well, we both kind of left that. We were like, "Hey, where's Stan and Ron? Can we talk to them?"
He was the Van Trapp child no one ever spoke of.
Exactly.
But they kept
Bruno, the Van Trapp child.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. It was.
That's right.
But
So I'm sorry, but to follow up on that, I was like, "That's not a real person to me."
right.
The floppy hat and the skirt, that's a moment, maybe. That's a shot, but that's not a person.
She was gone, by the way.
Yes, I know. She did not finish. She did not make it long.
She didn't make it to
Bless
the
her soul.
day.
She was
did
lovely,
she?
but she did not. Yeah,
she left very quickly.
But I always said, like, I will do anything as Emmett. I will wear anything. I will be as outrageous, as effeminate as you want or need me to be to tell a story. I'm in. But every time we do that, I want to be seen in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Right. Every time I do that, I'm not sleeping in a nightie.
No, I want to say something.
Yes, please.
I want to say something about Peter's character and about Peter as well, because if I may, what I drew upon, as I spoke about yesterday, was someone I knew in the theater who was extremely effeminate, and I was very young at the time. I was only about 22, no, maybe 25 years old, and I had to go out down the street with him to pick up some sandwiches when we were on a break from the theater. So I had to be seen outside of the protection of this little theater in Greenwich Village, actually on the street with this person. I was so embarrassed and so ashamed to be walking down the street with this outrageous queen. It was like, don't anybody look at me, I don't know him. And I wound up feeling so ashamed of myself for thinking that and behaving that way. And I never did that again, because I realized it's very easy to be a gay person who can pass for straight, but it takes real courage to be a gay person who is noticeably gay. You have a much tougher life to live for that, because you can't hide behind your straightness. So a lot of gay people these days, because we're all assimilating, have an issue with effeminate gay men. They don't want the other people to see that kind of gay man. They only want to see the kind of gay man, who's straight, and, you're going to get married, move to the suburbs, have kids. This is the new assimilationist image of gay people. So queens don't fit into that picture. And it's really cruel to reject your brothers, because we all have enough to deal with as it is. But when your own kind start turning on you because you're a queen, that to me is a level of cruelty that is totally unacceptable.
Right. And the funny thing is the whole movement would not have started had it not been for the queens. Like that's who threw the brick at Stonewall,
The kids
or the heels,
in high
I should say.
school who are tormented because the other straight kids can see that they're effeminate. I've known a lot of gay guys who were like football players in high school, and even one of them, a good friend of mine who was a football player who's gay, said, well, all my buddies were on the team. And I've always felt very guilty for being a bully to gay kids in my high school when I, in fact, was gay. But I could hide because I was on the team.
Right. So thank you, Peter, for playing that part. Yeah. But I want to talk about...
the bravest person on the show.
Duh. And as fabulous as he is as an actor, he is now a very successful producer of one of my favorite shows, and a GLAAD award-winning drama. How many times have you had that?
How many times? What?
Well, the network got an excellent rating. The ABC Family got an excellent rating from GLAAD, and the show won outstanding.
We won the GLAAD award last year, and 2 years ago we were nominated again this year.
We love it. But I wanted to ask, how did this happen for you? Like, how did the Fosters happen, and how did you get it to ABC Family?
Let me try to laser through this. So during Queer as Folk, which I loved, and I had a really extraordinary experience. I was so privileged to work with these guys who treated me and Emmett with such kindness and respect, and I really feel like that journey of creating that character together, which is really what a series is. A series is it's a dance between writers and actor, where every week you are continuing to define this human being until the series is over, and then that's who that character was, right? So it's sort of like you all have a chisel and you're all attacking the same piece of marble, right?
It's collaboration.
And because they,
You did. But Peter, we had table reads, and after the table read, we would say, anyone who has anything that they want to talk about their character, the storylines, even a line of dialogue you don't like, you want to change, come talk to us. Every week, Peter was there. He was the first person to come to us and spoke to us as writer to writer, and we worked on his character a lot, shaping it. Peter was so collaborative and so a participant in creating.
Well, you guys were so collaborative and participating. There are plenty of writers who aren't interested, who don't just meet puppets, go say your words, So it was a real privilege to have that, and I respected you guys so much, and I knew how hard you worked, and I knew what it took to get anything on a page. I mean, and now I really know. Yeah. Oh, girl. But
now he talks very badly about actors. He said,
I know.
"How do you put up with those
meat
people?"
Puppets? Shut up. I did. By the way, the first time I had dinner with them after I'd started running a show, I was like, I'm sorry.
He did.
I'm sorry. Everything, I don't know what. They were like, you were amazing. And I was like, I couldn't have been. There's no such thing as an amazing actor. I'm kidding.
I'm in the room.
Yes, you are.
How quickly?
So anyway, so during that process, it became clear to me that I wanted to be authoring more of the storytelling. And they were, Ron even said to me one day, he was like, you should write a script. And I was like, you know what? We're intimately involved enough. Let me let you guys do your job and I'll do mine.
A script for Queer as Folk.
For Queer as Folk, yeah. So that didn't happen, but I wrote and directed a feature. That led me to, it got a little release and ended up on Showtime, and that led me to a writing partner, and we started working together. The first pilot we wrote together, we ended up selling, and so it was sort of like, oh, all right, this seems to work. And we wrote and sold pilots and movies for 5 years without getting anything produced. A friend of ours left one company where we had something set up and went over to Jennifer Lopez's company, and he called us and said, I need some good TV. What do you guys have? And we had a bunch of ideas, but we were smart enough to sort of look at each other and go, okay, wait. They want something from us. What do we want from them? They're asking us to bring the idea. They're asking us to bring in the content. So which of these ideas do we need them for? Right? I don't need Jennifer Lopez to sell a crime procedural. Right. Although NBC's doing one with her. But which I still is amazing to me. I don't really. I mean, I hope it's good. I'm fascinated.
She's in it, right?
Yeah, she's starring in it. Shades of Blue. Yeah. So we were like, oh wait, we had pitched the Fosters to our agents at CAA, whom I adore and who are incredible supporters of us and have been. They hip pocketed us way back when we were nobody. But they were like, oh, Fosters sounds like a great show. No one will make it. Do not waste your time. Really, do not waste your time.
But why did you want to tell that story? What was it about that story?
Look, I am an only child of divorce. I was raised by both my parents at different periods of time, but largely by single parents. I was a latchkey kid. I was a lonely kid. I would spend hours a day, I mean, not even exaggerating, sitting on the couch facing out the picture window waiting for someone to come home.
Oh.
I know, it's sad. But
this is why he writes.
But that is right. No, that is why I write.
Yeah.
That is why I write. That is why I create worlds. That is why I have an imagination. But that's what everything I do, Queer as Folk included, is about creating family, is about having family, is on some level about that. That is clearly.
So you created the family that I
didn't have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the way, my parents are lovely and good, kind people who did the best they could and a very good job. It was the 70s. You had latchkey kids. That's what we did. Yeah. They were all good luck.
Right.
No, here you
totally.
go. You'll be fine.
Slide down that metal slide.
You're 8.
We'll see you later.
You're 8. You'll be fine. Why can't you be home alone for 4 hours? That seems perfectly acceptable.
The fact that we're alive after the 70s,
it's a wonder.
It's a shock.
It's a wonder.
Do you remember that toy with the? You could kill yourself with that.
I remember being like 4 and riding around in the front seat of my grandmother's Cadillac, standing up.
No
while she was
seatbelts.
making. Oh, no seatbelts.
What?
They didn't even have seatbelt. Just standing up while grandma's driving, going make her Avon deliveries. She stopped short and explains a lot. But anyway, so we attached Jennifer Lopez. They loved the project. They were like, why is this a Jennifer Lopez project? And I was like, I hadn't thought about that. Because she is the first multicultural 21st century superstar, and this is the first multicultural 21st century family that we're going to put on TV. And they were like, sold! And we took it, right? Thank you.
Did you really think of it on the spot, like when
I
they asked
swear to
you?
God.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
that's what I said. And so we took that to ABC Family. ABC Family's tagline at the time was a new kind of family. And we were all, we got a new kind of family for you. Sit down, you ready for this? 2 mamas, 1 black, 1 white. 5 children, 1 biological, 2 adopted. They're Latino. And 2 foster kids. What do you think? And then we were like, but Jennifer Lopez.
Right.
And that's how it got done.
Did she have anything to do with it in terms of?
Jennifer's an
input?
incredible ally and advocate for the show. She's very invested in it personally. She had a lesbian aunt who was her favorite aunt who didn't get to have this moment, didn't get to have a family, didn't get to have, really, I think, lived her life quite in the shadows. And I think Jennifer has always felt sort of, I guess, I don't know, not guilt, but sadness for her. Mm-hmm. And this is a tribute to her for her. Great. So Jennifer's and she's been just, extraordinary. Getting a woman like Jennifer who's the hardest working person I've ever seen. Like, I can't begrudge Jennifer anything she has, except maybe that face from the fucking gods, but but she, I mean,
Well,
she, you
we're
know,
Puerto Rican.
she works so hard every day, and getting her to carve time out of that multi-bajillion-dollar business. She makes, you know, what is for her the equivalent of like a bus token on this show. You know, this is, you do not go to ABC Family to make a lot of money.
Right.
And we all divvy up a really fairly small pot, but for her to carve time out of that life when she could be, you know, selling coals for $1 million a day,
Right.
she is an incredible support.
It's great to hear.
How much, is someone here from the festival? How much time do we have? Because I want to, huh? How many? 2 minutes. Thank you for letting me know.
I want to talk about, can we talk one Foster's thing? Because
Yeah.
this panel is called A Kiss is Just a Kiss. I want to talk about the Johnner kiss.
Yes.
Because, thank you. So that story is incredibly important to me. It's reflective of my early childhood, my writing partner's early childhood, you know, and it was something we wanted to do from the very beginning. By the way, in the original pilot, Jude was going to be trans, and the network was like,
Not yet.
what if he's just gay? And we were like, all right, we'll revisit.
And you did.
And we did. But I understand why but we got an amazing trans character on the show. So that's been, and they've been, and the network, ABC Family, I can only say wonderful things about their stance on what they put on the air, and about their bravery, and about their utter and complete support for the stories that we want to tell. So I don't ever want anybody to think otherwise. Even when they say, hey, slow your roll, it's thoughtful. It's not reactive, if that makes sense. And we had wanted to do the Jude Connor. From the first moment we saw Jude and Connor together, I was like, oh, there it is. That's young love. That's the. I mean, that I could cry talking about it. The nail polish scene, just like, oh, every time, just undoes me to have. You know, to find your ally, to find your person at that age, like what a gift. And so we've been building to this. We had wanted to do the kiss toward the end of the first season. The network was like, maybe second season when their voices have changed. That would be great. So we put it off. In second season, to their credit, we kind of held their feet to the fire, and they were like, yeah, okay. And we were all so invested in the relationship and in the dramatics of the storytelling that it had never occurred to me to be prepared for a reaction.
Right.
We were, at Showtime when Queer as Folk went on the air, they prepared us for bomb threats. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? Oh. Bomb threats at the premiere. They were like, here's what's going to happen if there's a bomb threat.
We had security in the writer's office too. Writer's room. Yeah.
Oh right. Oh, that's right. You did. I mean, it was just
cameras. See who was at the door.
Yeah, all that. And even when the Fosters went on the air, the network was like, okay, here's some talking points if we get this and if we get that. And we did get a little tiny protest from 9 moms or whatever they're called.
Because that's what it is, 9 moms.
Well, that's really what it is.
And a lot of stamps.
So, yeah. There's a lot of stamps. Yeah. First of all.
Anyway.
9 moms, 1 million stamps.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Disney PR hates it when I talk about them. I'm in so much trouble. But they prepared us for some feedback or for some fallout from the Foster going in there. And again, it didn't really happen. Mm-hmm. Very, very little. Right. And so when the Johnner kiss happened, I was just so moved and so proud. And I'm watching, at home. I think I was actually in the office, and I'm weeping with pride and seeing my story told in, it matters so much to see yourself in the media landscape. It matters so much. I know it's television, but it matters. In this culture we live in, we are obsessed. We are a society obsessed with our own reflections. And the mirror we are looking in is the plasma TV on our living room walls. And when you are not there, you feel invisible. It matters. And that is not to, lionize what we do. I know we tell stories, and I know at the end of the day we really sell soap for a living. I get that. But it matters. This is the thing we've all chosen, but collectively,
and you've to
embrace. TV.
You and Brad have talked about this, the fact that everybody has a first kiss.
Well, so
right?
I'm sitting there, tears streaming down my face, and all of a sudden the tweets start coming in. You fucking pervert, you disgusting pedophile. I hope you fucking die and burn in hell. It was intense. And some from gay people. Why are you doing this? You're making us look dirty.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I was like, this was the most chaste kiss you've ever seen. I mean, really. It was a beautiful, tender, very simple moment where two 13-year-old characters, the boys are older than that, touched lips. That's it. And it had been explored over 2 seasons. It was so earned. It was so earned it hurt, and to have that, I mean that was really, it was the first time I've been faced with that. There was a little bit of that stuff during Queer as Folk. I was spared most of it because Emmett was like, oh, I know her, she's my friend.
And I know we have to wrap up, but I want to say, yes, we've come a long way. Let's not make any mistake about that. But it reminds me, in hearing you say that was your response. Lee Daniels and Jussie Smollett were just talking about how they themselves have been receiving death threats because of the storyline on Empire, that Jussie's storyline. So, as far as we have come, there is still so much work to do, and I wanted to get to what we want to see on television, but to just put a pin in it is what we need to see is a more diverse group of gay characters, so that they're not just white gay men or white gay or white lesbians. It's about the fact that we need to show that we are everywhere, that we are in everyone's family, and that our experiences are worthy of storytelling, and that storytelling saves lives, as you have all done on this panel. And so we're incredibly grateful to you for telling those stories and for the lives that you've saved.
Credit to you too, Wilson Cruz.
Yes, huge credit, huge credit.
You did it before it was even Cruz.
In eyeliner. And hair.
With Prince hair.
I'm sorry that I didn't get to questions, and I love you, and I'm sorry, but
Thank you for
they
coming.
are so great. Thank you guys.
Thank you all.
So much.